Hello, and welcome to the 8th episode of the But I'm Knitting podcast. Today's episode is entitled Providence. I guess I'll explain later as to why I'm calling it that. And also, just as a precaution, if you happen to hear thunder rolling in the background, it's about to rain. And that makes me think as to how I'm going to get to Knitting Circle later on tonight, but we'll decide that later. So, do I have any finished objects? I do not believe I have any finished objects. I had my socks that I showed you. Did I show it to you last week? My rye socks? No, I did, because I told you about the different lengths of the leg. So I finished that. All the ends are woven in. They're inside my box of socks, knit-along box, which I feel like I should get another one. But, well, we'll see how well that works. So I guess we'll talk about what I've been working on this week. So, this week, I think I did a little bit of everything. For my Pandora, no, it's not Pandora socks, Strangling Vine socks, designed by Karen Burr, I've done probably a few rows. Not much at all. So the yarn, of course, again, is by Rowland of the Yarngasm podcast. The colorway, it's under Footsie Base, and the colorway is called Pandora. And my assumption is once I finish with my other socks that I'm working on by Karen Burr, then I'll get back to these and really and truly finish them, because I do want to have them to wear and put them in my box of socks. My next project that I worked on quite a bit this week, is I worked on my sweater for my summer sweater knit-along. Did I do that much? Nah, not really. But I was working on it, and I eventually got sick and tired of working on it on Saturday night. I just put it down, and I just didn't care. So, where the little pack band is, that's where I was last week. And that's how far I've made it this week, all the way up to the top. So that's probably less than 10 rows. But my issue with this one, I have no idea how I did this. You see that right there? That hole? I have no idea how that happened. It's not a yarn over. I gathered that much. But the thing is, I also see it here, and I'm wondering if it's maybe because of the way that I'm purling back. Maybe the yarn is too loose and it's leaving a hole, and I don't want to rip it out to go fix it, so that's the way it's going to be. I'll make sure I wear a tank top underneath it. That would solve the problems for, modesty going outside. But right now I'm up to, hold on, 6, 7, 8. Okay, I'm almost at 90 rows, and I have to make it up to 120 before I start putting in the lace section, or I may have to do it a bit shorter than that because my torso is pretty short as it is, so I may not need that much, but that would require extra measuring, and I'm being lazy about it, but I will get around to it. So, summer sweater knit-along, it's the Easy Lace Shoulder Top by Gabriella Ballone on Ravelry. So yay! Sweater making progress. I have until June 15th. That gives me, oh goodness me, 16 days. We'll see how that goes. Maybe next week I'll have at least the front finished. We'll have to see. Because I don't think it will take me too long to do the lace portion, because that's actually interesting and not just knitting back and forth, but we'll see how that works. And I won't have any sleeves to worry about either. What else do I have to talk about? I'm not certain why I picked up this bag. Oh, yes. This is my other thing. Guess what actually got pulled out this week, and I'm so proud. I decided to actually put in some work on my Castiel socks. The yarn is from No Makers on her House Gnome base. The colorway is called Castiel, hence the name. So while it doesn't look like I did all that much, guess what? I put in heels. Yes. So like I said before, I could not find where I put my leftovers of this color. So the heels became red, and I guess we'll go with a somewhat primary color thing, and maybe I'll do the toes in yellow. I know for sure I have yellow, like a... if anybody's seen like the Knit Picks Goldenrod on the Stro base from years ago, I have some of that left over. So I'll probably use that for the toes. So progress is being made on these. Quite happy. So heels are put in. So it's just now a matter of just going round and round and round until it's time to put in the toes. So that shouldn't take too long. We'll see where things go next week, and whether or not I will have a completed pair of socks out of this. Hope so. My next project is the one that I've done the most amount of work with, or to me it's the most complicated, so for me it feels like a lot more progress has been done in it. This is a test knit for Karen Burr. It's called the Churro Socks, and the pattern is absolutely beautiful. The yarn I'm using is my own hand-dyed, what I call the Cheeto Dust. So guess what? Here is the leg so far, and I put in the heel, and I was worried, and yeah, I actually did a heel flap, but that's because that's what she's asking for in the pattern, so I'm testing it out otherwise. It's working out okay. I thought I would be a bit confused by the heel because it's not the heel, by the gusset decreases, because it's not exactly the traditional gusset decreases, but once I actually went back and read it, I realized it's much easier than I thought it was. So, last week I was where this pink marker is, I don't know if you can see that right there, and I managed to make it all the way down the leg, and now I'm working on the foot. So, I don't know if I will get this done by next week or not, but I'll probably have a lot of the leg done, so I'm not too worried about that. Okay? And I believe that is it for my works in progress, or at least the ones that I can really talk about. Do I have anything else? Any other socks in the needle? No, just the gilded socks that I casted on and only did 2 rows of last week, but I said I wasn't going to be touching those until at least another pair of socks are done. So what else? Well, I guess I can talk about, it's not stash enhancement, it's just new things to me. But this also works with Providence. So, okay, I'll just go into what's going on in my life because that will cover it all. So, on Friday, at the store I work at, we had a major inspection coming in. And while we were there, I found out they were having an event the next day where I would have to make slime, where they were looking for somebody to help them make slime. And I volunteered my services to do it. I came in the next morning and I learned how to make slime. It was actually pretty cool, but apparently I am not that neat of a worker, and I messed up my t-shirt. I messed up my sweatshirt that I wore over my t-shirt, but the slime got done in like 4 different batches, and it all looks pretty and shiny and it was meant to be given out on Saturday, the next day. So when I was leaving my workplace, I got a text from one of my friends who was telling me how one of our other friends was not going to be able to be at church and they needed somebody to help out with praise and worship. So I said, okay, yeah, sure, I'll come down, but I'm going to need a ride. Can you pick me up from Chapters, where you picked me up from last time? He's like, yeah, sure, no problem. So I got there early because I'm one of those people where, especially if I'm meeting somebody, I don't like being late. So even when I put in like my Google search, I will tell people, oh yeah, I won't tell people. I'll put into Google, how can I arrive there 15 minutes early just to make sure that I'm not late? So I got there early and I went into this bookstore and I said, okay, I lost my notions bag, a while back. So let me just, you never know, they could still have it. It's been like a month. I went inside there and I asked them if they have a lost and found. They said, yes. What are you looking for? I said, I'm looking for a white bag with little TARDISes on it. It's a little zippered pouch. The guy didn't even let me get any further than that, and he pulled it out of their lost and found. So my notions pouch has been returned to me. I'm so excited, but I want to, you know what? But the thing is, before I found out where it was, I also had done an order yesterday, the day before, and I'm getting a new notions pouch coming in the mail. So when that comes in, I'm going to wash this thing. It hasn't been washed since I got it. And as much as I love it, the background's supposed to be white. That's no longer white. That's kind of dingy. So I need to wash this so that it's good. Everything that was inside there is inside there now. I'm excited. I'll have more than one notions pouch now. And on top of that notions pouch, I'm also going to be getting another bag, knitting bag. So I'm just waiting for that to come in the mail, and then once that comes in the mail, well, on next week's episode, then I'll tell you all about it. And then while I was there, I found a table of books for $2. So I sat down there. I have a hard time resisting books, even if it ends up being a genre that I probably don't like. I will at the very least go through and try and read the flaps, because sometimes I will end up finding a gem that I really, really like. So I picked up 2 while I was at the bookstore. because, hard to resist. So this one's called The Shogun's Daughter by Laura Jo Rowland. I have no idea what it's about, but it sounded interesting. It actually made me think of the Joy Luck Club for some strange reason. So I'm assuming it has to do with some kind of historical Japanese. I believe shoguns are Japanese. I believe so. But I'm looking forward to reading about this one. Should be interesting. And the other book that I got for another $2 is called House Witch by Katie Schickel. So I'm looking forward to getting into this one. I kind of like anything supernatural that doesn't involve zombies, because I think zombies are creepy and I hate them, but I don't mind vampires, real vampires, not Twilight vampires. I will definitely be specific about that. So I'm kind of looking forward to reading these books and seeing what's going on. But I've got a bunch of audiobooks that I borrowed from the library that I need to get through as well. This week I also finished a book. It was called The Knit Club, and I can't remember who wrote the book. Let me double check. It's called, it's called Knit 2 by Kate Jacobs. Sorry, not Knit 2. That's the one I'm currently listening to. It's The Friday Night Knitting Club by Kate Jacobs. I listened to that book on audiobook. I think I started it last week, Wednesday or so, and I listened to it off and on while I was knitting or something like that. And then when I was going to go meet my friend, I had to go, it took a while by a bus, so I was listening to it, finishing it up while I was coming back home, meeting my friend, and I was sitting on the bus, and the end of the book had me crying. I had tears streaming down my face. I could not believe it. It was such a good book, but the problem is I couldn't understand how the book finished the way it did when there's a second book, and I already downloaded the second book. So I'm currently listening to the second book. I enjoyed it immensely. I don't know if there's a third book in the series, but I'm definitely going to look out for that as well. One of the other books I kind of took out from the library was one called Cinder by Marissa Mayer. I had not heard about that book until I started working at Indigo, but that was just for, Christmas holidays. And of course, I'm seeing Mayer, and I'm thinking Stephanie Mayer, who wrote Twilight, and I was just like, no, don't want to read that. Until one of my new coworkers was telling me about the book series. I'm like, that actually sounds really interesting. So it's like a revamp or rewritten fairy tales. So it's like they take the very basic concept of the fairy tale and incorporate it into this new futuristic world. That's actually really interesting. So I can't wait to get to the other books in the series. However, they are currently all out, and so that means I gotta wait because there's a long whole list for it. But eventually I'll get around to it. So is that everything then? Yeah, and I pretty much covered what happened to me during the week. Right now, I am really looking at the weather and wondering how I'm going to make it to Knitting Circle, because I usually take a walking path between, or not all the time, but for the past few weeks while we've been having a knitting circle at another location, because the library that we have it at is being renovated. It opens next week, but I've been walking a wooded path to get to the new place. I don't like walking when it's raining and there's a potential of mud, because I hate mud. So I'm debating whether or not I'm going to call for a ride or I'm going to have to use the bus. But if I use the bus, I'm going to get wet. If I get the ride, well, we're going to have to stop off because I have to get some last minute things for the dye class that I'm hoping to do tonight. I picked up a few extra supplies, containers to wet it in, containers for water. I bought paper cups. I wanted to get a big pack of Kool-Aid. My mom told me about it, of Kool-Aid packets. I wanted to get that because apparently there's a store by my house that sells it. When I say the pack, I don't mean a little packet. I meant a box full of packets. So I'm hoping I could get my hands on that today, because I went to another location of the grocery store and they didn't have it. I went to about 4 places today and not a single one of them carried a single packet. They all carried either the Kool-Aid jammers or the liquid ones, and I've never used a liquid one, so that would require measuring and testing things out, which would not be good for tonight. So I think I've covered everything. Well, here's a question for anybody. If anybody lives in the Toronto area and could tell me if they're able to find Kool-Aid packets, you know, the ones where you pretty much just add water, and I mean like the powder in the packets. If anybody in the Toronto area knows where I could get to find some, preferably on the west end of Toronto, that would be great. Um, if not, well, okay, that's okay. So, oh my goodness, I completely forgot to do the whole full introduction. You know what? I'll put it up as a blurb at the beginning, so it works out okay. So just in case anybody watched this far, I'm on Ravelry as Mona Lee 81. I'm on Instagram as Rome_Raven. I have a blog at butimknitting.blogspot.ca, which I have not updated for the past couple episodes, but I'm gonna do my best to try and catch back up on that. I also have a Ravelry group called the But I'm Knitting Podcast. I got 2 new members, which I'm very happy to see. One of them is Allie in Perth. Hold on, I have it. See, I even had it loaded up on my Safari, not on my Safari, on my iPad, so I would not forget who it was. So I wanted to say welcome to Angie Ship. I'm going to write it down here. Who's from Oshawa. Her name is Andrea. Thank you very much for joining the group. And from Ali in Perth, thank you very much for joining the group. She's from Perth, Ontario. I've never been there. I've heard of it, and it would actually be pretty interesting. I've been to Oshawa. My grandfather has a church that he started up there, or my grandfather started a church there. So I've been there a couple of times, but not really got a chance to really sit down and explore in the area. So, let's see, just double checking. I have, it locked me out. It does it so quickly on my iPad. So, yeah, and, oh, hold on, there's another. I also wanted to say welcome to All That Cake Knit, who is Dorothy, right. We've had like Ravelry discussions, Ravelry messages on it. So thank you all 3 of you for joining the group. I don't know. So I guess I do have to put in some discussion topics and that kind of stuff. But feel free to start up a discussion topic or anything like that. Any questions or anything. Feel free to start it up. And also, if anybody could tell me how to sticky the welcome and introductions to the top of the page. I have not figured out how to do that yet. And when I tried searching for it, Ravelry was just sort of like, we don't know how to help you, which doesn't make any sense. So I'm assuming I'm not searching for it correctly. But I do believe that is everything. But then I forgot about one of the biggest stash enhancements, that I could possibly get. Last week, Wednesday night, my mother called me at 10:30 at night from her kitchen, and I was tired. I had to be at work at 5:30 the next morning, but I came down, and she's asked me if I wanted a sewing machine. I'm there like, yeah, because I can do the very basics of sewing, but I want to, in a sense, get better at it. So she said, okay, and set me back off to bed. So I'm like, why? She asked me if I want a sewing machine. Like, I don't think someone's going to buy me a sewing machine. And then I found out that one of her friends, Christina, who I had taught to knit socks earlier on this year, got a sewing machine from someone who no longer needed it. And it would be coming to the house, well, this week. I got all excited. I was thinking later on this week that I would get it, but it came to my house yesterday. And it's not just a sewing machine that you sit on top of a table, it's a sewing machine that comes with a table. So I'm really excited. I got to set it up. There's only one thing on it that's not quite attaching. This I guess you'd call it the spool holder. it's a stick that goes up on the top of the sewing machine, and you put the spool of thread on it in order to thread it and actually get to use it. That's the only thing that's missing, but I'm pretty certain you could probably find an attachment or something like that that can make it work again. So I'm really excited to really get a chance to go through that. And yeah, I got a bag full of muslin from like over 10 years ago that I'm kind of happy now that I didn't get rid of. I don't know what I'm gonna make out of it. Some of my ideas that I want to try. I want to make a knitting bag, something simple, very basic. I've always wanted a circle skirt, but that could be because I've watched so many people on YouTube make it. And one of the other things that I really want to do is a high-waisted skirt that's full, below the knee, and pockets. I am a sucker for a skirt or a dress with pockets. I think that's like the best thing to ever come to fashion, because it is useful. If I could, I probably wouldn't really travel with a purse, and the only reason I do travel with a purse is because I have to put things like my knitting bag in something to go to where I'm going, and lotion. And the thing is, if I have a small bottle of lotion, and I have my keys, my debit card, my bus pass, and a knitting bag on my wrist, everything else can go in my pockets. So I don't really feel the need that I need anything really bigger than that. So, oh no, I forgot. I have to find something to put my bullet journal in. Okay, so a big pocket. So I will see how well that goes, and I guess I will start watching a lot more YouTube videos on on sewing things. So in a sense, I have an idea. I have a tutorial already that I saved online for a very simple knitting bag. So I guess eventually I will do that once I get everything set up and I learn how to use the basics of my new machine. So yeah, that's everything for today. So I will see you next week. Happy knitting, happy crafting, and thank you for watching me out here in Toronto in my corner of the crafting world.